Hi, welcome back to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michelle. This is the show where we talk about exceptional human encounters, the people who make them happen, and the actions that it takes to create them. Now, today I was struggling a little bit thinking about what I was going to share in this opening monologue, and usually it comes pretty natural to me, like, hey, this is what I'm tuned in right now. But it wasn't this morning. And then I started thinking about this phrase, let things evolve naturally. So I was trying to just give my brain a break and see like what was there. And I realized my views and concepts have changed over time about that particular phrase. I believe in eating natural foods and using natural products. I also believe in protecting nature and leaving it alone and undisturbed whenever possible. But recently someone said to me, hey, let's just see what happens naturally, and offered me no explanation to what that meant to them. And it set off a bomb in my mind, seriously. I'm like still thinking about it, happened months ago or weeks ago. So what I'm experiencing right now and seeing is that what's happening naturally in human relationships is distrust and fear. In a recent World Values Survey, people around the world were asked if they agree with the statement. The statement was, most people can be trusted. Over 2/3 of the world agreed with that statement less than 50% of the time. So like half the world, more than half the world was like, nope, I don't really trust people. And Americans agreed they could trust people between 30 and 40% of the time. That's terrifying to me, actually. And I think that explains why we don't know our neighbors and we don't lift up and say hello when we pass strangers. I'm concerned about that. Trust is a big thing. Human relationships do not evolve naturally. Sure, some people might be a better natural fit for each other, but developing relationships, no matter what kind of relationship they are, whether it's intimate or business relationship or just a friendship, they all take some effort. We naturally are wired for fear, and some of that is good because some of that helps us survive, remembering something that was a bad moment or that you don't want to experience again. On the other hand, love does not come easy either. Love for self, love for each other, and love for an unjust world. I wonder if people all over the world were asked if they wanted to live in a world without love, would they say yes? Would anybody say yes to that? And for those that answered no, which I hope most would, can't we agree that without trust there is no love? How do we work together to trust each other again? We are also hardwired for connection, and we need each other, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. That is the beauty of life, of really leaning into interdependence. So how do we trust each other again? Just thinking about that. My guest today was referred to me by Jamie Wahlberg, someone whose heart I trust and admire tremendously. And I want to shout out to Jamie. And I also want to say hi to Tish in Tennessee, who I'm wearing this animal print jacket for you in your honor. You know why. You know what you've said to me the last couple shows. I love you both, and I just love knowing both of you. But now let's meet our guest today. So joining me in the studio today is Becker Grumet. Becker Grumet is a queer and non-binary artist who likes to be in community with other artists. As the producing director of Art Times Presents, Becker can often be found producing opportunities for artists to gather, perform, and create together. Their own work lies in writing and producing musical theater, most recently The Weed Shop, the musical, and the Bachelor parody musical with Madelyne, Heyman, and Will Robertson. They also sold out a one-night-only production of their sort of solo show, Becker Does Men, a one-person show with all their friends, which told their life story set amongst modern and classic musical theater and a men's repertoire. Becker has been featured in the Huffington Post and the podcast Unladylike. They have a bachelor's degree in film and television from USC and a master's in nonprofit management from Hebrew Union College. That's you.
It's true.
You're like, all that is true.
Somehow that all happened.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, so I get to rant sometimes when I start the show, and so I always like to give guests opportunity to do some ranting themselves.
Yeah, I love a good rant.
You love a good rant? Mine wasn't totally rantish today.
No, but, it was very poised and authentic,
yeah.
Which really, I mean, when you were speaking, I mostly was just like, yeah, I really believe in being authentic with folks,
yeah.
Being genuine. I try to do that as much as I can, and so I just really appreciate what you said about we really like should be able to trust
Yeah.
other people, and when it feels like you can't, like I question that a lot. Just like why shouldn't we be able to trust one another? But you know, the world gives us examples of when people don't.
True. Do you feel like well, there's two questions I want to ask you for that. Do you feel like the world seems to be rewarding for bad behavior right now?
Ooh,
that's a big question. Sorry. Hey, so let's just get into this. Like,
oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the bad guys win in the world. Yeah. Most recently, they seem to be, and times, you know, seem tough for a lot of marginalized folks, especially. So yeah, it's, but you know, we just have to keep fighting in our own way, and I do that with strange theater, like you mentioned.
Yeah. We've got to. I want to ask more about these titles, and then just secondly, just on this trust thing, because now we're talking about this. Do you feel sensitive to the lack of not, when you want to be able to trust, but you're like feeling some reason where like if I don't feel like I should trust this, like, do you feel any kind of sensitivity towards that, or?
Yeah. I mean, the answer is yes. I hate being disappointed with like our fellow human kind.
Yeah.
And I wish, you know, I just have so much hope, and I personally like love getting to know other people, and you know, when you hear stories of people taking advantage of other people, it's
uncomfortable.
Why?
Yeah, I feel that too. I mean, it would be weird if you said, no, I don't feel sensitive. I think.
Oh my gosh, I have a story actually.
Yeah, tell me a story.
This is so random, but
perfect.
But not at all. I got a call recently from someone posing to be the LA like electric power company, telling me like, hey, we're gonna turn, like, you scheduled to turn your power off, right? And I was like, 100% no. Like, I paid all of my bills. Like, please don't turn my power off. And they were like, well, just call this number. Like, I don't have all the details. Like, you have to call this number. And I called the number, and of course they were trying to get me to like pay more money. And then I was like, wait, like, no. And then they like weren't getting anything from me.
Right.
So I called, like, I looked up the number to the power company, called that number, and they were like, yeah, this is like a scam that's been happening. And I was like, are you serious?
Doesn't it bother, you know, as a creative person that knows like just the possibilities of like working on a project and how it can take different forms, right? Like, isn't it crazy that someone's putting that much energy into scamming? Like, they have to be intelligent and creative in some ways. And it's like, wow, you could find so many different other ways to.
I was floored. Yeah. I was like, the power company? I mean, it's kind of smart if you think about it. I mean, you're right.
I get IRS calls. Like, they're not.
I've heard. Like, look, I get those all the time. Like, we're gonna, and then I'm like, nah, no, you're not. But when it came to like my basic needs and my resources and like my electricity, like, of course I reacted.
Yeah. And what's even so crazy, I've never heard this one on utilities, which doesn't surprise me. Yeah. But the interdependence that we are in with our utilities, you know, and how probably, you know, we don't even really think about it, like kind of take it for granted. Yeah. And then for someone to take that and turn it into such a major vulnerability, you're like, what?
Bonkers.
Yeah, it's really kind of bonkers. Like, it's not right. Yeah. It's not right. But I always go back to like, wow, like, you had to sit down and think about this. Yeah. And you had other people, like there's other people in a call center. Like, you put all this applied energy and time to being a bad human. Yes. That blows my mind.
Yeah. I was like, am I on a Reply All episode? Do you know that podcast? They just like, people call in with stories of like horrible scams like that. Yeah. And I had never heard that one.
Yeah. When you kind of figured out that this was not right, did you tell the person, like, you know?
I literally said, sir, what you're saying to me sounds like a scam. And he was like, oh, I know, right? Like, we get that all the time. Like, this sounds like, but no, like, I know. You really just have to call this number. Like, I don't have your details. Yeah. Like, I don't have the account. I'm just the dispatch. Yeah. and then I had to like waste more of my time reporting this to the actual LADWP.
Yeah.
Which hopefully will help because
See, at some point, I think we should be able to. There should be a way to go to small claims court over time thievery, because that
time thievery,
right?
Yes.
I mean, the time. So you took your precious time, and time is like a major resource right now.
I was at work.
Yeah. You took their time actually.
Yeah, I lost an hour of like productivity.
Yeah.
Productivity is so valuable.
And you don't even know how much more you lost and after that because you were thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
I've told the story to people. Now all of you.
Yeah. I think time thievery should be a real crime. I'm just saying. I don't know how we should punish people for it, but I think it's a real crime. Let's figure it out. That's a whole other show. Well, let's talk about musical theater. You as an artist, like when did you know that this was kind of a direction that you were going to go in?
That's a fun question. I grew up like going to a lot of theater. I was very fortunate. My family is like a musical family, not so much like in theater, but my mom like went to college for music, like vocal piano. My brother went to music school. A lot of my I didn't know him very well, but my grandfather liked to play like jazz piano.
Nice.
And you know, they're Long Island Jews. They grew up loving musicals, Rodgers and Hammersteins. My mom grew up loving like Andrew Lloyd Webber. So they would take me to a lot of shows like that would come and tour. That was like a very distinct part of my childhood. And so I was always like a big fan.
Yeah.
But then when I went to, so then I grew up doing music. I started on piano. I learned some guitar at summer camp, as Jews tend to do. I like to call it summer camp guitar because it's not very good. But
you play there and then come home and not play?
Well, I more like, hey, like I could play Blowing in the Wind, you know, like I can play American Pie.
Yeah.
Or like basically the same 12 chords on the guitar. But I actually grew up like playing trumpet. That was like my main instrument. I thought I was going to go to music school for trumpet. And then somewhere along the way in high school, I was like, really found that storytelling, because I'd always also been like writing a lot as a kid, writing little stories. My grandfather had like a file in his house of everything I'd ever written. And he actually told me, he was like, you're going to be, I think out of all the things that you do, which all the things on the card, like he was like,
just heard.
Yeah, like, I think you're going to be a writer. So yeah, somewhere in high school, I wanted to try getting into filmmaking because I also really fell in love with television and film. But when I went to go do a filmmaking program, I came back having made a musical. We were supposed to make a little short at this NYU program I went to, and I wanted to stand out, I guess, and I was like, how can I do that? And I think it was with my musical background, playing instruments and singing and whatever. So I made like a little musical short that hilariously was called Dinner with Dave, the musical. And then
what was Dave about?
Dave was like meeting up for a blind date with a nice lady, and he was late. There was like a whole song. He's like, I'm late, of course, because every like student short film is like, I'm late to something.
It's like creating drama out of something very simple. Like,
so like I wrote all the songs, and it was just like too much fun. And so then when I went to college, I ended up going to USC's film program, and it was when it was time to do like our version of a little like thesis film. I wanted to do a musical again. So this time I like actually teamed up with like an arranger who was a film scoring student at USC, and we actually got to like go into the scoring stage and like record it and record all the vocals, and that was a 6-minute 3-song version of We Chap, which is the first full musical that ended up being turned into a full musical with the help of Maddie Heyman, who was a USC theater major, and together we like kind of took this little 6-minute story and turned it into one of those like 2-hour shows that I'd gone to like as a kid growing up.
And Weeds are not about dandelions, right?
Sorry?
I said Weeds, is it about cannabis or like?
Yeah.
I was trying to make a joke and it didn't do it very well. Like, it was terrible.
I'll watch it back later and be like, ha ha, ha ha.
Joke fail.
We'll like insert the laugh.
Yeah, right.
So I guess at the same time, like I came out to California for school and I was just like floored by the idea of medical cannabis, and like felt that it could really help me in a lot of ways, and also just like being really inquisitive about like, oh, you can go to this doctor and say, at the time I was like, I think I said I had insomnia, which I did.
Yeah.
I remember I brought like my pill bottle of
melatonin or something as proof. See, I take this now. I'm not joking.
Yeah, which
I do
like
not sleep.
you don't need to do any of that.
I know, don't do it.
He must have been like,
it's like,
I don't care.
Did you do it? Was the person that was going to say issue your card in the room, or was like a video? Like he was somewhere else.
This was back in the day where it was like an old crusty doctor man, like in a really like kind of scary complex like strip mall.
Yeah.
Where you would just like go and pay someone at a window and then they would call you into the little room.
Yeah.
And he would be like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "See the pill bottle?" And then he was like, "Okay, here you go." But that was like amazing to me. I was like, "What is this?" And then you could go to this even more amazing place where you could like have all this selection of like ways to ingest cannabis. And I was like, I don't know, it just hit me that this is what there should be a musical about.
It is a very interesting experience, though, like getting the card and then being able to go somewhere and the conversations that you're having with people. It is interesting. It's funny, it's entertaining, and it's full. Like it's just like
and it's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird too. Like it is weird too.
What's like? I mean, musicals are weird. I think they shouldn't. There's no reason someone should burst into song.
Yeah, no. No.
So why not have them do it at a dispensary?
So is the concept like someone going for the first time?
No, actually. So then the concept became about, I like to say it's a coming out parable. The story is a bud tender and a medical marijuana doctor.
Okay.
The bud tender like just opened up his dispensary, but he's kind of been doing this in some way for a while. And then the doctor is new to LA and is like really excited about starting this journey, helping people. So hilariously, the musical is now set in 2014 because we're kind of like going with what things were like before recreational cannabis. But I feel like now less so, but back when we were making the show, cannabis is like still pretty stigmatized. So they lie about what they do for a living. They meet on a dating app. I'll backtrack. But they're like, oh, I can't tell them I'm a weed doctor, so I can't tell them I own a dispensary. So they have this whole relationship that's based on lies, when really like they're perfect for each other.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see the songs happening separately. Yeah, I can totally see. You're gonna do this again, right? Like you're bringing this back.
This is happening this November.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This November. Tickets on sale now. In the bio and the blog post.
Yeah, we'll share the link.
Yeah.
When's the first show?
We open on November 8th. In East Hollywood.
Nice.
Yes.
It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, we're coming back. So we did the show in 2016-17, actually around the same time of year. Like, I feel like my life is repeating itself from 3 years ago. Like, I see Facebook posts like from when we were doing the show.
Yeah.
That's
interesting.
It's amazing to bring this show back. Like, we never thought it would come back so quickly. And we've updated it a little bit, and Some of the original cast is back.
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah, it feels like a homecoming, like a reunion.
That's gotta feel really good. It's kind of, I would imagine, like an artist that has a song on the radio and it seems to be timeless, like that people are still humming it and singing it and enjoying it 2-3 years later. Like that has to feel kind of good, like fulfilling. Like,
we definitely have that like in our circle, like our inner circle of people who know Weed Shop. Like they're like, like I can't wait to see the show again. I mean, that's a very small amount of people. But yeah, we try to bring it to more and more people all the time. We did make a cast album that's on Spotify, and so like I have gotten messages from random people who are like, I love this musical.
what do you think is about humor as a tool to break stigmas around certain things? Like, do you?
I mean, to me, it's the best way. I do that in my own life.
Yeah.
I was explaining to you, I was like, I have a nervous laugh. Like, I try to really like de-escalate anything with humor, including like my own mental health. But for this specifically, like the show really, like a lot of people who come see the show, like who are either, friends of someone in the cast or whatever, and like maybe they're not into the cannabis thing at all. Like this show is truly for any person. And I think they really, a lot of the time they do walk out being like, maybe I should like try an edible. Like, I don't know, I mean, it's not a scary drug. It's like you're healing yourself.
Yeah.
It's truly like medicinal medicine.
We're a fan here on the show, so you don't have to. Yeah. And I remember, when I was first introduced to weed or marijuana, it was like a ex-boyfriend situation, and there was just it was more of a it was a group of guys that thought they were going to be rock stars that would mess up my house and smoke.
Cool.
And I had all these bad memories associated with it. It was just like a mess, and it was wasteful, and da 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 da. And I didn't like it. That was how I felt about it in my 20s.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to just really find my own way with it. And for me, it's spiritual. I mean, it's I'm way too heady. I'm a very type A person. I'm running off list and like all these things that I want to do, and it's ridiculous, and I need to stop. And that helps me stop. Like
totally.
it helps me stop, and also be full, like be present in my body, and like just kind of not necessarily the most social person, like when I'm high, but like but I feel if it's been in my system the next day, I just feel so much more relaxed.
Yeah. I mean, I think another like interview thing I did, like I really like don't drink alcohol very much. Like I maybe will drink some wine at a dinner here and there, but like I don't know why something is so regulated that is like so beautiful when like alcohol is so easy to obtain, and legalities and all that.
And all of what you just said, but also you don't feel good after it.
No.
Like if you drink too much, you are definitely going to feel that the next day.
Yeah. Which is why I can't.
Yeah,
I have to be productive, like we talked about. I need my productivity.
I'm in that camp with you too. I'm like not drinking as much.
Yeah.
So I want to go back and talk about the one man show.
Yeah.
One person show.
It's like changed titles, honestly.
So you told me the first title. Tell me the first title.
The first title was Becca Does Men, a one-woman show with all her friends, asterisk on her, parentheses, gender is a construct, close parentheses.
And what made you change it and update it?
So since I did that show, I'm like more embracing publicly this like non-binary identity that I have, and trying to like associate more with they, them, their pronouns. And for like anyone who doesn't know, like I guess for me speaking like only me, Becker.
That's the only person you can speak for.
Yeah. Non-binary identity to me is just like I don't know. I really feel. It's funny, people have been asking me if I'm transitioning lately, and I'm like, to a man? No. I don't feel like I'm transitioning to any gender. Like I really feel a combination of, if we're gonna like use the binary genders, like I guess a combination of them in terms of like femininity and masculinity. Probably leaning more towards like a trans masculinity identity. But I definitely just, I don't really feel on that binary.
Yeah.
And so using the they pronoun and changing my name, which I still identify with the name Becca, like, because I used it for so long and still do, and have no issue with people calling me Becca. But I don't know, one day, like, someone misheard my name wrong when I introduced myself, and they were like, Becker? And I was like, no, but that just
Say
like,
it again. I like the sound of it. Yeah.
I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I really like that name, and it still feels like me, and it's like a little more gender neutral.
Yeah.
People seem to like it. So anyway, the title of the show now, I guess, when I write it down, is just Becker Does Men, a one-person show with all their friends. Yes. Which I wouldn't call myself an actor. I probably like could have gone that route. When I perform, it's more like a somewhere combination of like stand-up and storytelling.
More personal expression, probably too.
Yeah.
You're not playing somebody else. It's like you be expressing you.
Yeah, it would be really hard for me to play somebody else. But with this show, I just wrote it as me. But I knew that I didn't want to be up there like all by myself. So what I did was I wrote a show with 4 of my friends playing different characters in my life. Sometimes they were playing themselves because like my writing partner was in the show, and a lot of the actors who've like been in my other shows. So like sometimes they were just them. But yeah, they either were like playing characters for me to act off of, or accompanying me in the song, or whatever it was. Yeah, and all the songs were songs traditionally written for men.
So was there humor and kind of looking at those constructs and
It was written to be pretty funny. There were parts of it that were super vulnerable. I talked about a really tough breakup I had. I talked about like my struggle with mental health. I like proudly wear anxiety and depression. So it was a good mix, but I'd say like a lot of it was funny.
How did you feel after the first time you performed that?
So we did 2 shows on the same night. So we did the first show and it went really well. People seemed to really like it. And so the second one was even easier. Yeah.
With this type of live theater, like you're hearing the audience feedback like during like songs and things. So does that help you to kind of go, oh yeah, they're feeling it with me? Like,
oh yeah. I describe like both performing and watching my work performed.
Oh, that's interesting too.
Is like straight up a high for me. It's why I do what I do. I can't get enough of that feeling.
Well, talk to me about the feeling. So I love the picture that I posted for story of you and this just scores of music. Like, I thought that was just such a cool, like, look at this work. I mean, just I can imagine writing one song, but writing like a score for something.
And that, like, I should say, like, that took a village. Like,
well, that's what I want to talk to you about. So you really, when we first talked, you really talked about how important it is to collaborate and like work with other artists, inspire other artists, spotlight other artists. Like, talk to people, talk from in your own experience. Like, what does this collaboration process really feel like from an artistic standpoint, or like when you're doing an artistic project?
Oh my gosh. Well, I originally, when I was in film school, I was like, film is like the most collaborative medium ever. Because like, think about it, like the cameras, the lights, the acting, the writing, like the costumes, like there's so much that goes into it. And like, I'm not, like, nothing against filmmaking, but like I have really come to the conclusion that like theater is even more of that feeling for me of a collaborative medium. Plus, like it's live, like in that moment.
Like so you're collaborating with the audience too, like in some ways. It's
it has a lot to do with like the audience reaction, like what you were saying. If something happens, you have to do it on the fly. You have to figure it out, and like everything has to go right at the same time. If you're filming something and you mess up a shot, you do it again.
Yeah, it's kind of why we do this too. Because even, I mean, I mess up, but I mean, we should be able to look at humans and go, even though they mess up, I love this person. You know, like there's just something about live and being real and being a part of that moment that feels, for me, it needs to be protected. Like this art form, having a conversation, like it feels like it needs to be protected. I don't know how else to say that, but I can understand why that would feel different than producing a film. It's like, oh well.
I really feel it like so I'm producing the show, like I've also kind of turned into like a producer through this whole process of like becoming a theater person. And yeah, it's, you know, when you have a production meeting, there's so many people and things. I mean, the show starts like from us writing the songs and the book, but then the music goes to an arranger, which went to a music copyist, which then goes, you know, to the actors and the band to play it. Then the choreographer has to take that and come in and do their thing, and work with the director, which Maddie, my writing partner, we kind of usually split it up where she directs and I produce. There's a stage manager, there's an assistant stage manager, there's the costumes, there's too many things. There's the lighting, there's the sound, like do you do anything with that team of people to kind of check on their own mental health, or just to like, because I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm imagining, so in what you just shared, so you've got all of these people coming together and it's going to be this live experience and everybody's like, you're in a major interdependence, like you got to hit your mark and I got to hit my mark. And so we often see this depicted in movies, like people are praying together, like you know, what do you do as a team to like make sure you're checking in with everybody to go, does everybody have what they need? Like, are you in the best place to do what you need to do? Wow, I try to do that as a producer. I feel like we're working with some new people this time, but like we have built relationships over the last few years making these shows. Like the show I talked about, the solo show, same stage manager, same choreographer, some of the same actors, some of the same people playing music. It's, you know, you build relationships, and that allows you. It's kind of good and bad, because we'll be in rehearsals and we're so close that we have like too much fun that I'm like have to be like, oh, like we have so much more to do, and we're just like all cracking jokes and making each other laugh. But at the same time, like, I feel like we do feel those connections for each other, where we can say like, hey, like, how are you? Or an actor will feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with me about, you know, hey, I'm not really here today. And that's okay.
I love hearing that. I mean, I feel like we can't do that enough, and you know, you want to see it done more in the workplace, but especially in a moment that everybody's going to come live, like just checking in to go, okay, is everybody good? Did everybody sleep last night? Did everybody eat? Like,
and a lot of times they didn't, because these people are working multiple jobs, and I mean, we're a nonprofit, so as much as we wish we could be paying equity union rates, like that's not where we're at. These people are basically doing this for free. And I'm doing it for free. Everyone is doing it literally for the love of the art.
So let's talk about your master's degree in nonprofit then. You know, what do you see now that you've developed a team, you have the right players, you're producing some different musicals, like what are some of the goals with Art Presents?
So basically what happened was, so Art Time, Art Time, actually the full name is Art Time with Haley McClintock, who happens to be my partner. But she, even before we were together, since 2015, started hosting these little get-togethers in her apartment in Long Beach at the time. And they were really a way for once a month for her and artists to gather and like and make art, because when you move to LA, or if you've been here a while, you know that your life gets sucked up doing other things. And like
mostly driving to other things.
Mostly driving. Yeah, so you might call yourself an artist, but are you really making something? Are you really sharing your art? Are you really meeting other artists? So the idea was that at least once a month, you could come to this community called Art Time and make something, share something. There were like different themes every month. And
I
then
saw the candles.
Yes, we just
Very
made
cool
candles.
Yeah.
The candles were awesome.
Yeah.
And at the same time, 2015 was actually around the same time that Maddie and I were working on the original WeChat. And so now that we have been doing all of these things for the last few years, we kind of like combined it all together and decided, okay, well, we're going to have, this is an organization, really, because this is an organization and it's a community. So we called it Art Time Presents. And with a mission of still continuing those monthly Art Time events for anyone, and then producing new work across like any medium. It could be, I mean, we happen to like love musicals, but I'm not, you know, I want to make art shows. I want to make dance performances. I want to do any kind of art. But we decided to focus specifically on producing new work by women and non-binary folks and transgender, non-conforming folks.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So do you see like are getting together on those monthly gatherings, do some of the ideas for like what's next kind of come out of?
Yeah. For sure. I'm trying to think. There's been so many art times. I was recently going through all of them. I mean, we've even had like a full band play at Art Time that will then turn into collaborating on like a music video for them or something like that. Actually, a band that has played at Art Time, we were able to just like help them shoot their music video like in our space. It's just becomes like this very entwined people in our community like all pitching in. And,
I'm kind of getting goosebumps. I believe in this model. Like that's interdependence. You're modeling interdependence in a way that's mutually beneficial to everybody.
Thanks.
I mean, because people are coming, they get to do whatever art that's happening in that month and meet new people and form relationships and like be in a safe space and then they cultivate new creative ideas, and then you get to work together in that, and then as this idea is happening over here, everybody comes over there and supports that one, and then there's an idea over here and everybody comes and supports that. Like it feels like how life should be, you know, like that you're in something together, but you support each other in whatever direction that you're going to. Like there's opportunities for that. Seems kind of cool.
That's all we could ask for. So.
Seems
cool. So I mean, we're trying to like organize officially. We have a fiscal sponsor. We have a space that we rent. It's like that's specifically for like nonprofit type spaces. And it's continually evolving. Like it's crazy to get everything out of our home and like actually have an office space to go to.
Do you have someone on your team that can that's good with grant writing? Because that's the next step, huh?
That's
like
me.
applying for that's you. You're like, wait a minute, don't you remember earlier? Writer.
Well, this is really the first time though that I'm writing grants for like what I desperately love. So that's like really scary and different. There's a lot of like care and love that is going into this. And we just don't want this to die. Like we're like, are we gonna make our rent every month? Are we gonna sell tickets to this show? Are we gonna are we gonna get this grant? Are we gonna, you know, it's always like a, I don't know, hopefully. I mean, when Haley started the Art Time events, like she always says like every month she's like, are people gonna show up to this? And then the day will come and there'll be 30 people in the room. So I don't know. It works, and it seems to be working.
I think a little bit of that is like purposeful friction, you know, like of not knowing. Your heart's into it and you're going without a certainty, which makes it sort of beautiful, and somehow that gets rewarded. Like people show up, people come to the event, they buy tickets. Like some of that, like, I mean, you don't want it to happen all the time, but some of it seems purposeful to kind of get you to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, like that. We worked hard. We can't say that we didn't try, that, you know, we put everything into it.
Yeah, I'd say the hardest part when we got into the fundraising aspect of it, though, is that we are trying to raise money from like people in our like age tax bracket, I guess, which is like just a really interesting challenge. Like what we really try to think about when we set our ticket prices, like how, you know, who's going to be able to actually afford and donate to this event. We try to like put suggested donation for a lot of our events, because we also like don't want to turn people away. Yeah. But then it becomes a balance of like, how do we stay alive without turning people away? Like, and we're not gonna turn people away, but that's like the dilemma we're figuring out right now. And how can we convince like the other generations above us to believe in us?
That's big.
Yeah,
it's big. I mean, there's two major things that you just talked about that, like, it feels like, and I don't want to use the word everybody, but it feels like, and we end up talking about this a lot, that people are working really hard, good people working really hard to barely get by. Yeah. And that doesn't, it feels like a bigger problem. Like if more of us are talking about it in different generations, like what else is going on, Yeah. And then the idea, I think that there's so many stigmas in the media, but even stigma against age brackets, like of why, of almost pitting us against us poor millennials, like we just millennials have been poo-pooed on so much. But so kind of getting back to a place where like, hey, you would find value in this. Like you were my age at one point, like you would get this, like you would be entertained by this, and we need you. Like we need to learn from you. Like you might have something that will help us with this, pricing situation or whatever it is. Like, how do we bring that back?
Or finding like someone who is a lawyer or an accountant, or like, someone who is able to like donate their time or services. It's such a process. And also like, we think a lot about, there's, like we were talking about earlier, like there's so much, for lack of a better word, like the bad guys happening in the world that like, do we matter? Like, where are we on the scale? Like arts funding is so limited. It's probably like pretty low on things that foundations and individual donors are funding. So we're also competing like in that space, which like, I don't even know how to feel about that. Like I want to give money to everything in the world. So how am I supposed to convince people to give money to a startup arts nonprofit?
Yeah. I don't have the answer to that.
That's the bet I
somewhere the answer is, we know this stuff cleanses our soul and feeds us. Like we have to, like a world without art is a world without love is a world without art to me. Like they're the same thing. Creative expression, spiritual expression, they're very similar.
It saves lives. Like it's how we cope with all the bad guys. It's how we heal ourselves. But I think we forget that sometimes.
Yeah, that's really important. Art, I think what you just said is really important. Art is how we cope with the bad guys.
At least for me, even if that's like going home at night and lying in bed and watching Netflix, like to me that's still art.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it takes you out of whatever you're dealing with in the time, and you might find something inspirational in the character or the the story or how it was shot. Of course.
When we did the show 3 years ago, the 2016 election happened in the middle of our show. And we actually even had jokes about Hillary Clinton and things like that, because of course, like everyone else, we thought there was only one way the election could end. And I remember like it was one of those moments, like when that happened, we did have to kind of like gather our cast and crew and be like, this happened. But like, one, the show must go on, and like two, like this show is going to be 2 hours of people like getting out of that noise. And so we really felt like proud of that. We were like, hey, like if you need a place to like come and laugh, and tonight, like that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm just kind of recalling how I felt during that time. Like
Right.
it's just numb.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a very interesting time to be in the middle of the show. But I think ultimately it was maybe helpful in the tiny microscopic way that it was.
It's helpful if you're talking in the way that you're talking about it now, and the people that you know is helpful. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was helpful. I feel like it was helpful. I feel like you should say that. Yeah, like, I think you know this. Like, no, it's helpful. Because art, you've already said it. Art heals. Art is expression of love, of creativity, of getting over things. Like, it's really important.
Yeah.
And combine that. I mean, I haven't thought too much about musical theater, but I loved old movies that were kind of musical. And when they've tried to do it again, it hasn't felt the same way. Like, I don't know what that is. Do you have an opinion about this? Why like old movies are like the musicals are different than when?
Do I have an opinion about this? I guess I'll just say like one of the reasons I love Weed Shop, my own work, is because it touches on like something that may be considered like such a new topic, but the mechanism that we do that is a complete throwback. Like the show it parodies almost like every musical theater style. A lot of the time, those like classic movie styles. So like we have like a soft shoe, like tappy kind of thing. We have like a number that feels a lot like you're like watching Hair. Or even like Hairspray, Grease. Like there's so many things that we quote in the show. So like, I don't know, that's I think why people also like it, because it throws back to those kinds of shows, which I don't know, new Broadway is really awesome, and a lot of it is like so amazing. Like Hadestown, which just won the Tony. Like I feel like that's doing like really amazing things. But a lot of Broadway like is the next movie that's like turned into a musical, and like how are they going to do that? And
I want to ask you this question, and then I almost don't want to ask you this question. How do you feel about pricing? Like how expensive Hamilton is to go? Like how do you feel about that? You're like, I don't want to answer that. I mean,
I think what I've found, so like obviously people love our shows, and so therefore we've like made an attempt to make connections in New York and like see what that would even be like, and it is expensive. It's so expensive to put on a show in New York. So I mean, for the ones that have become like zeitgeisty, like I guess that's like another thing, but I think ticket prices have just always been high because like there's no other way people are going to make their money back on these shows. Like it is just a fortune to put on a show. Even an off-Broadway show is too much money. Like just too much money.
So from being on the other side of it, being on the producer side of it, you know all the costs that go into it. So you're like, well, yeah, it has to be that expensive of a ticket.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, even like something as simple as our show, like I was comparing all the different ticket processors that you can use out there, and like I was like, oh, like are we gonna have to raise our ticket prices just so we can get what we need after all of these fees? And I'm like, I don't want to do that to people. I don't want to like upcharge. So like there's so many systems out there that are like trying to get their scrap of the pie, and it just like unfortunately can make ticket prices go higher, and then because then us as the nonprofit, like we need to hopefully make our money back.
I wonder. I start to wonder if there was a time where theater was more nonprofit, and then when other parties started to pay attention, like, oh, there's money to be made here. Like, was there a shift in the history of live theater? Because when you think about it, and again, I'm going off of like portrayals in old movies, really, like of how theater was like a community theater, and they'd work really hard to put on a production, and it would really inspire people, and they would be able to do the next one because they barely got by, but they got by, and then that was the story. I wonder if there was a time that where someone else, one of those bad guys that we're talking about, was paying attention to it and said, "Oh."
I'm just thinking of the producers.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how true that is. Like, did some, and you.
Yeah, it's especially making any kind of project with our nonprofit. We've been thinking about this a lot recently. Like, it's challenging because, like, if you're making something that's like entertainment, right? Like, you're probably going to go to an investor for that. Or if you're, lucky enough to get a deal at like a studio or something. But if you're making something that's art, then you can apply for like grants for that. And musical theater sometimes is somewhere in the middle. Like our show, I believe it's art, but a lot of folks would probably believe it's entertainment. So like trying to find funding for that is difficult. I don't know if that really answers your question, but just like what it's like to be a nonprofit theater. I mean, we don't just make theater, but like in this case, and the last time we put on Weed Shop, we did do it with a nonprofit theater. It's an interesting road. Like I'm not quite sure how to go about it sometimes.
I wonder if there's any opportunity, because you kind of think there must be like small hubs of private nonprofit theaters.
There's tons of nonprofit theaters.
Like, what if they could come together and share resources? Like, is there a model where it makes sense? Because if everybody's struggling with the same things alone, like, could you pull your resources and location and equipment?
and that's like you said, what we're trying to do with other people. But yeah, I mean, it would be cool to see that on a larger scale. Like, what if the Amundsen, like, for donated space or something for like one night? What would that look like? You know? Or even somewhere like the Geffen or Pasadena Playhouse.
Definitely. Like, what if it was more of a everybody's like a hand down to help. We've made it, so we have these days available to people that are coming up, because you would think that people would be connected through their love of theater and knowing how important this is and like how it's enriched their lives and the people that come. So it's like more of it. Like, how do we help make sure that it's still here?
And people, like, I mean, I feel really grateful. Like, the space that we rent, it's called Family Arts in East Hollywood. I mean, they still have to make their rent every month, but at least they're offering us a pretty, like, very reasonable rate, because they understand we're they call it like an incubator. Like, we're up and coming, we're trying to incubate projects, so they charge us like appropriately. So like, that's like a small way of like trying to do that. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But it's still, we're still paying our rent, because everybody's got to quote my favorite musical, got to pay the rent.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's like have you seen Broad City?
No. Parts of, yes.
Okay. Well, Broad City like really changed my life, because it was one of the first times I saw like maybe somewhat of like a version of me on TV, just like a stoner Jewish queer lady-ish person. And they once, like, my favorite line is like, they were like, that musical, like, how did they think they were not gonna pay their rent? Like, I think about that all the time.
Those two get in a lot of situations.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah,
I've only seen a couple of episodes, but
I recommend when you need that good relaxation time.
Yeah, good lap for
a good binge. Yeah,
good. All right. So we know about musical theater now. I feel like I know a little bit more about.
I guess so.
Yeah.
People come to us a lot, also just for like, have you worked with this venue? Like, do you know these? And we're becoming like a little more known for that, like to help the little folks put on a show or do what they want to do.
I hope that comes back. I mean, I have to believe, and I do believe that there's power in numbers. So just being there to like model, like, hey, we hope that everybody's kind of there to just a little hand up. Like we're not asking. We understand how difficult it is, and we know how important this is.
Right.
You know, for everybody that's involved in the project, but people that come and enjoy it. Like,
yeah.
So I hope, I think doing that is like just modeling the behavior that you hope to see more in the industry. Speaking of modeling behavior, so the question that everybody gets asked when they sit in your position today is, so I say this phrase, exceptional human encounters. I start the show with it. What does that mean to you? What does the phrase exceptional human encounter mean to you? There's no right or wrong answer, obviously.
Exceptional human encounter.
Like, what would be one for you? Like, or maybe you have an example of like something happened recently. You're like, wow, that was awesome.
So last night, literally last night. So we were rehearsing. We rehearse like 3-4 times a week at Family Arts. And there's a parking garage that you can park in sometimes for free, sometimes not. And we were, going to our cars, and one of my actors, she kind of like looks, where we're like walking down, she like looks at her car and she goes, "Is that man washing my car?" Like, I don't like, I didn't know that was
Didn't expect that.
Lo and behold, so there's this guy, William. He's like an older, lovely guy who I don't really like. He hangs out in that parking garage. He has like some stuff there, and he literally just for no reason, like for the kindness of his heart, an exceptional human, like waxed her whole car. What? And like wouldn't take any money from her, and like just wanted to like talk and like make a connection. Yeah. And so our actor Vivian, like she was just like floored and really like inspired by him. Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So thanks, William.
Thanks, William. Being an exceptional human.
And this was like not like a random time of day. This was like 11 o'clock at night. This man was washing her car with no expectations.
Now I look forward. I want to check in with you because you guys are going to learn his story. You're going to learn more of his story.
Yeah,
you're going to see him.
Yeah. For sure. I think about that all the time. Like I love that you do this because this is like also what I love to do. Like I think I told you I love to like sit down and have coffee with people, and usually we're not like on the camera. But, but also I love like podcast interviews and things like that. And like I was thinking that exactly. I was like, this is like only the beginning of our relationship with him.
I think everybody has a beautiful story, and I think everybody has something in them that when you hear it, you're going to be like, oh my, I needed to hear that. Like there's no way it can't be that way at this point. Like, you have a bazillion experiences that I've never had, you know, and like and there's something that I'm challenged by that you could share something, and the thing that I'm challenged by could be like, oh, it's not that big of a challenge anymore. Like, they gave me a nugget. Like, I can use that. Like, thank you, you know? So I love, I know not everybody gets this, but if there's anything that I'm trying to inspire is just being curious, like being lovingly curious, like.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
And something happens, like something interesting happens when you show up that way, and when you've created enough safety where the other person feels that way too, or they've just showed up that way because that's how they show up. Like those moments have never let me down in life. Never have let me down, and they've just continue to surprise me. And like in my type A like head, how I'm like, how do we have those more? Like, because I feel like the world needs more of those moments. Like that we need to see each other as like you know, fellow humans.
I don't know how much time we have, but we had an opportunity to bring We Chop as a concert to New York, and like long story short, the whole thing got derailed, and it was like the biggest heartbreak as an artist like I've ever had, because you know we literally like we were gonna see our names like in the show in New York at a really, really reputable venue, and it all fell apart. And like people came to the rescue like that. Like they said, no, like we're gonna do this show in my loft. We're gonna get people there. We're gonna raise you guys some money. We're gonna an amazing Broadway actor who was not nominated for a Tony after that. Like,
See, this
like sang with us. Like that was also a moment where I was just like, why? Like, why us?
Yeah. See, this is why I talk about purposeful friction. Like, we all see stories of like humans coming to the rescue, like in natural disasters and things where like we seem to be wired for that. Like we just kind of kick in, no questions asked. Like I'm there, you know. Yeah. So I'm just wondering on the other side of things, and because we can't live like that. Like you can't live in this like, are we gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? Did we sell enough tickets? Like it's a lot of extra stuff, and we're all dealing. I mean, the statistics now, 2 out of 3 people are dealing with some sort of social anxiety, right? So we're already dealing with it. The world's a little nutty. And then you're, like, will we make it? So just wondering how we can get on the other side of that, like where we, and I think it's like, I think it's microdosing love. I think I'm going to start talking about that. Of like just, you don't have to commit to the person, but commit to the moment.
Yeah.
And there's opportunities just to be very loving, show up loving, like, I love this person. Like, like you got to prove you got to really work hard for me to not love you because I already showed up going, I love this person.
Yes.
I wonder what the world would look like if we did that.
Ooh. I don't know, but you got to hashtag microdosing love.
Microdosing, I know. I'm working on a TED Talk.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how else to get it. I mean, I either have been born in the wrong time, and I refuse to accept that. Oh. Because it has to be the right time I was born,
Right.
But I care about love in a way that it makes me weird. I mean, and and I generally want to see it more. Like I want to walk out and see people in love. And I'm not totally talking about just romantic love. I want to see them experiencing the world in a loving way, right? Like,
totally.
Like I know that happens in a musical. Like I feel, but I want to see it.
Yeah. I love musicals.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really beautiful mission statement. I mean, I'd tell you that. Like I think what you do it has an awesome mission, and
awesome and crazy. Yeah. Mostly crazy.
Well, I mean, you could say what I'm trying to do is crazy.
Yeah, which makes it awesome.
And I really try not to like nail bite and be like, this is the first time in my life that, because I've been knocked down a bit, and a lot of my show is about that, where I really like. Yes, I have this master's degree. Like, yes, but like, why? Like, why trust me? Like, can I really do this? And this is like one of the first times that I feel confident that I'm like, yeah, like hesitantly confident. Like, I think I sat in therapy one day and I was like, I truly like believe at this moment that we can do this. And all the things that happened to me before this happened like leading up to this moment.
Yeah, that feels good.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah,
it's so scary.
But this is, to me, this is real. I think we all feel this way. If we're honest about it, whatever you're working on, like who is this confident about anything? And I really think we all feel this way. Yeah. Especially the things that are important to us. The more important it is to you, the more you're like, can I? Am I the right person to do this? Like, that just is like that to me signifies the care, you know, how important the thing is to you.
Well, if not this, then what? Yeah. Like this is like
and as you just said too, like all the challenges, the difficulties that led to you to go, now in this moment I got this. Yeah. Like this moment could be I got this moment, you know, a seed to something next. Like, you know, I don't know how this works.
That's true. I mean, I'm also like in grad school we talked about failing forward a lot. Yeah. And like if this isn't meant to go down this way and Art Time Presents like doesn't exist in however many years, like then that is what was meant to happen. Yeah. And we'll do something else.
Yeah. It will be in a different form. Yeah. But you can see it already in how you've named your shows and how they've progressed and the show's coming back. Right. It already has grown some legs.
My identity's evolved, so that's true. Like it would make sense for it to evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems right. All right. Well, we get to do one more thing together. So I'd like to issue a social challenge of the week.
Oh, okay.
Just as a way to stay in relationship with learning. So I try to make it a relating exercise. It can be something that people do alone, relating with self, maybe journaling, or ask a buddy to do something.
Okay.
And I wrote down something around collaboration. Like I really believe in collaboration. I really believe in artistic collaboration even more so. I think that does something to a soul, like to see the creative process evolve with other people doing their, adding their best beautiful nuggets of like creativity. Like it's just cool. Like to see, I had an idea it was going to go here, and then because these 5 other people were added into it, it went here, and it's cool. Like, so I'm
That's so real.
What?
That's so real.
Yeah, like it's better than what I could possibly imagine, or it challenged me to add this in a different, to add this piece in a different way. It's just cool, like how it evolves. So I would also like people to experience that collaboration. So if we issued a social challenge of collaboration, do you have any ideas of how we could do that, or? Not to put you on the spot. I'd like to kind of co-create if we can figure out something to issue.
Well, I have something that's really helped me.
Okay.
One of my she's like a friend and a mentor and like so inspiring, and I love her. One day she was like, would anyone like want to like video chat with me once a week and like be accountable for each other?
Big.
And I was like, me.
It's big.
And it happened, she was looking for all like women-ish people because that just like felt good to her. But we've been meeting for like the last couple of months, mostly every week, talking about our goals and like, and we also will like read things for each other and listen to things, whatever we're working on. We happen to all be like comedian, artisty people. So like, I don't know, people, if maybe that would work for people to have some kind of accountability group to collaborate in that way.
I like where you're going with this, because it's maybe accountability is a gate, like having an accountability partner is a gateway to collaboration.
Yes.
Because I think there's a good chance that, especially in a world where we're not really trusting each other that much, that we have a lot of solo stuff happening. Like we know this. Statistically, we have more people living alone. Marriage statistics are not that great. People saying are committed to that, and there's many reasons for that. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
We have a lot of solo entrepreneurs. Families are not having 3 children anymore, so there's no middle child. So there's, chances of having 1 child are pretty high, or 2, 1 or 2 are popular. So maybe there's some people that have not really experienced collaboration in the ways that we're kind of talking about it.
Yeah.
And just starting with like, can I offer up being accountable, helping someone be accountable, and meeting weekly or having a phone call, and then seeing if collaboration kind of grows from that. I
really joined the group because I wanted to actually, this is kind of counterintuitive to what you're saying, but like I wanted to focus on being accountable for a solo project.
Yeah.
But like when I finish that project, those women in the group like will have been part of that from like start to finish.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I like it. All right, so we're changing. See, it totally evolves. So I think it's a social challenge of finding an accountability partner and being one to somebody. And I think that's just an ask. I think that's probably thinking about who would you like to be in a relationship or on a regular basis where you're going to help them be accountable to things that they're working on, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then just asking. And you might have to ask 2 or 3 people. And don't like, I know it's hard to say this, but not taking like the no personally.
Right.
Because people have other things going on.
People also have to learn to say no.
Yeah, and we need to, we actually sometimes need to say no because we've got too much on your plate. So I would make a list first of maybe 3 to 5 people, so just allowing for a couple no's to come up.
Yeah.
And then just asking like, hey, do you have anything that you're working on that you would need some help being accountable for?
Yeah.
And can we talk once a week or meet once a week?
I've also heard that as you could call that like people building their personal like board of directors. Like who do you want to like oversee what you're doing, kind of like as a mentor.
Yeah.
So that's another version I've heard.
It might end up being that grows into something, or a mentoring relationship too.
Yeah.
Huh. I like it. Okay. That's the social challenge of the week. Accountability. We did it. We did it. We did it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're going to share all the links. I want to come to the weed shop.
Please come to the weed shop.
I really I think I'm going to like it. I know this guy over here too. He wants to come. He's been smiling.
We would be happy to have you there.
Awesome. All right. So we'll get all the dates. We'll find out about that.
Yeah.
We will be sharing all that. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
All of you. We don't know who you are. Thank you. It is weird, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. All right. Me too. I think I'm committed at this point. So that brings us to another end of Relatable. As always, I just want you to think about this exceptional human encounter thing. Like, what are you doing to make that happen? Like, can you make that happen? I'm sure you can. You could just smile at somebody and make an exceptional human encounter happen. So do that. See you next week.